Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Quest for You, where my goal is to help you find purpose, direction, and clarity, and to also help you find your inner strength, so that you don't need to rely on the outside world to give you a sense of where you belong, but you can pull it from within yourself. So today I want to start with a quote, and it goes like this: "The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude, to me, is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, a home. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace for that day. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes." And this quote is by Charles Swindoll, which I believe was a pastor. And I've carried this quote with me for a very long time. It's got to be at least 10 years that somebody gave this to me, and I remember I printed it and posted it on my desk at work, and I've carried it with me, and it's still, even though I've switched jobs in between, I still have it on my desk. So just because it's so critical, that attitude is so important of how we show up for the day. So which attitudes do you choose every day? Is it the ones that give you bitterness, jealousy, and anger? Or the ones that propel you forward, that give you energy and motivation? I'm pretty sure it's a mix of both, depending on what's going on in your life, how the day is going. But when adversity hits us, it's hard to be cheerful. And even if cheerful comes easy to you at other times. But life demands that we stay on all the time. We have jobs, we have a family, we have school. Those are duties that just take up a lot of time, and at the same time they demand our attention and our presence. So what do? Well, we think if we just hide our thoughts and attitudes deep inside, no one will notice. We put on a smile on our face and move about life. And we do what we need to do, just to get things done and go home. But inside we are frustrated, unhappy, depressed, discouraged. But of course, we don't want to show this to anyone. So it's one thing to have a one-time event that temporarily distracts us. But more often, we simply have issues, and I mean issues, things that stir us slightly on the inside. Maybe a frustration with the world, with life, disappointment that life turned out the way it did, and not the way we hoped a long time ago. Maybe we have settled with life, accepted on the outside what is, but inside we have not. So we smile on command, we say, "Hey, how are you?" And all these things that are expected of us. And we live our life this way. Superficial platitudes on the outside, and inside we feel quite differently. So well, the strategy may work on the surface. It keeps our life in check on the surface. But a suppressed attitude will come out. It will show itself. Impatience, a quick rise to anger, a negative outlook on the world, jealousy. These feelings often stem from a negative attitude that we carry inside. They bubble up, and sometimes it's very slow, but steady. So those are the feelings that you constantly feel. A little tad of frustration with your friend every time you hang out, or maybe a bad mood in the mornings when you wake up and you realize it's not the weekend. Or maybe it's just this unhappiness of not having accomplished as much as your friends. And sometimes we successfully suppress it and don't feel much until something major happens. And then we burst out in anger or we fall into a deep depression. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a little bit of attitude, with some character, with standing up for yourself, speaking up when you see something is wrong, raising your voice when you feel like you're not being heard. My voice on this podcast is pretty mellow, but trust me, I can raise it pretty well. Frustration is normal. A bit of jealousy is also normal. We are human. And I'm not talking about the small signs of showing your character. What I'm referring to are the negative feelings that have manifested inside us and that have taken hold of us. Take a quick scan of your feelings as I'm speaking. Are you bitter about something? Maybe it's something that you've carried inside of you for a very long time. I grew up in a family where there was always bitterness because someone or something didn't turn out as expected or didn't do something that was expected. And that dissatisfaction and bitterness brought along other negativity in the form of judgment and anger and just negative talk. People spend their whole life disappointed about unmet expectations. What a waste of precious time. Are you feeling defeated by life? You think something bigger than you decided your destiny and you just have to comply? Or are you wallowing in self-pity? Poor you. Everything is going wrong. I understand. Those are big issues. They go deep and they affect our behavior, our actions, the choices we make in life. In a sense, you are surrendering to your feelings about the world, just like your thoughts. These feelings are now in control. Have you ever experienced road rage? I have. And in those few seconds that I'm yelling at the car next to me like a child at a tower of blocks that fell over, I'm not myself. Or better, I'm not even in control of myself. And every time I react negatively, angry, out of jealousy, on a whim and without thought, I feel the same, not in control. Like a slave to those emotions boiling inside of me, with that heart rate going up again and grasping for air. So what do? It's huge. It's insurmountable. And overnight you cannot just be angry anymore. Trust me, I've tried this. So I've discovered that the key is to take it one day at a time. And first, you have to really become aware of the negative attitude you display. So how does it show itself? You have to observe. And I want you to name it. Say it out loud. What is it? Write it in your journal. We often think these funny little activities are useless. Naming emotions, writing things down. But there is more to that. And I would like for you to see that as you go through my episodes. We are bringing things from unconscious to conscious. It's like when you misplace the key and you search your brain, retracing your steps. We're doing the same thing here. I use this strategy myself. When my heartbeat goes up, my adrenaline flows, I have already trained my mind to question it. I ask myself, why am I feeling this right now? And then I keep digging. And I would like for you to do the same. It happens very much in the background, but it happens. And what I do next is this. And it's very important. I give myself a break. You see, there's nothing you can do about the anger that's already flowing through your veins. Positive self-talk, breathing. If that works for you, do it. And I really mean that. But I've found that usually when I'm already feeling that feeling, it is very hard for me to do. For example, take something simple like an email from a coworker that sets you off. Or a text message from your friend that just has a not so nice tone to it. Little things that bring about a negative attitude in us. So I take a break. I don't respond. It's possible that I take a breath I don't know if I do this every time, but what I do every time is taking a break. The most important thing here is to not react, to not respond, to give yourself a break with this feeling. And ask yourself any of these questions, like, why am I feeling like this? Is it really so bad in the grand scheme of things? What exactly about this is bothering me? Have this conversation with yourself. And then after a break, and really the length of the break depends on what the issue is. Some issues are more serious and you may need days, weeks. Then I say to myself after this break, how can I respond in the best possible way? And the best possible way depends on what you value. It depends on what's important to you. Do you value kindness, openness, honesty, calmness, sincerity? Your response to the situation at hand depends on this. For me, I always want to respond in the kindest way possible without hurting or upsetting anyone. So after my break, and I may still be upset and angry, I try to respond from the best place possible. That's not always the perfect place, I realize that, but it's a better place than letting yourself be run by your immediate emotions. You see, what you're doing here is you reign in control. You took over your feelings and you directed them slightly by thinking about them. You did not let them run you. But you also didn't try to suppress your feelings. Like I said earlier, it hardly ever works to try to talk yourself out of feeling angry. Very challenging. This is how you change your attitude, slowly and one situation at a time. And with time you'll notice it will come easier to you. You'll notice fewer things bother you, but you have to start. And you have to give it time. And maybe you start with something small, that text message that I mentioned earlier, that comes and it just kind of like irks you a little bit on the inside. Don't let it take over. Let it just roll out. Give it some space. And look at it maybe with a fresh set of eyes a few minutes later, an hour later. Bitterness and anger slowly dissolve and you take on an overall positive outlook. And sometimes you may even find you don't care anymore. Not caring about something negative in your life is okay. It just means you've taken the focus off. The so-called friend that always picks on you in school, or the relative that always makes those insulting comments at family gatherings. People can turn you from sweet into sour. I get it. But today I say, don't let that happen to you. Take control of how you feel, and soon enough, you may look past those people or those events that affect you. But realize that it takes time. And since it takes time, start today. That's my encouragement. And I hope you've written something down. And that negativity, just tackle it one day at a time. It's within you, and that means you can solve it. It's not easy, but you can do it. My heart goes out to you, and I send you much love and much encouragement. Until next time.